A migrant worker, Army veteran, and now federal agent, Valley native Sergio Tinoco has put his life story in ink and joins us now to talk more about your new book, Proud American. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
It's an honor to have you, and thank you so much for your service. I mean, you had a decade that you served in the Army, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Let's just talk about first a little bit about your life. You're an only child. You grew up with your maternal grandparents.
That's correct. I was born here in Pharr, Texas. At the age of 6, my grandparents and my mom decided to say that I had a better chance at life, I guess, getting an American education. So my grandparents began raising me at that time.
And at that time, too, your mother was still in Mexico.
Yes. She stayed in Mexico till even after I left the military. I made her a resident alien after that, but she just wouldn't live or leave Reynosa at all.
It was kind of her comfort spot.
Yes, it was.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you serving in the Army. You went to Bosnia, and you went there right when the war was supposed to end, but like you were telling me, there were still hot spots when you were there.
Correct. The war in Bosnia had already taken place. When we went there, we went as a peacekeeping force. Unfortunately, there were still some hot spots there that we encountered, and I had to partake in some of the missions.
And you served in the Army as well for 10 years?
10 years, that's correct.
Wow. What inspired you to join the Army? It just goes perfectly with the title of your book is A Proud American, because as you grew up as a migrant worker and then you chose to serve our country.
The Army came for me as an escape, actually. I grew up with a migrant family. I was a migrant worker. I started working in the field since I was the age of 7.
Wow.
And so my escape out of that life was the military.
Yeah.
And that was my sole purpose of joining. It wasn't until I was in the military that I learned all about the pride of serving our country.
Yeah. And let's just talk about the book. The book just, you're really transparent in it because it's an autobiography. You're writing about your life experiences. You served in the Army, your mother. Were there moments when you were writing and you were just like, I don't know how to word this, or should I put that in there?
There were a lot of moments because I put so much of me in here in this book. I have so much family and friends that they're going to learn so much about me that they've never heard. My kids as well. And so there were a lot of moments where I had to pause and either rephrase it or reword it to where I wouldn't shock my kids especially as much.
And what I think is so great is looking at some of the reviews on Amazon. That's where people can purchase your book. There's already at least 8 readers that are there. You have a perfect 5 stars. And when I was reading it, they just say it's an emotional journey whenever they read it because, there are times whenever they're happy when they read it, they're smiling, they're laughing, they're sad. What would you say is the biggest life experience that you went through that transformed you?
Probably my biggest life experience would be after having joined DHS, after leaving the military. I went and saw my dad, my grandfather in uniform. And I saw a look in his face that I had never seen before. This man had placed so many obstacles in my mind. There were obstacles throughout my entire life. And yet, he finally, when he saw me in uniform, he opened up to me. And he told me about his life story. And at that moment, I realized I was exactly like him.
Yeah.
When my whole life I had spent looking for a different mentor, looking for somebody else for advice when I had it in front of me my entire life. And I think it did something to me to where I realized finally what I had my entire life.
That's perfect. Well, Proud American is available right now on Amazon. And Sergio, can't thank you enough for coming and, of course, your service to our country.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course.